And the prehistory of pragmatics may also be an important area of discovering the development of pragmatics. Of course, our interest in pragmatics is not only recent one. Rather, we have been talking about communication and the communication in real life situations. We also talk about the difference between what is said and what is meant but not said. So they are not only the recent ones, or they are not the new ones only. Rather, there have been multiple talks about it in previous eras also. And it was not the Morris who was the first one to talk about these things. Rather, there were other people who have been talking about such things in various works. Since antiquity, we can see that philosophers, researchers, and linguists have been interested in such talks and in identifying the various aspects of human communication, especially when people skillfully convey the meanings without saying them, without saying them literally. So, this era of the development of pragmatics may be seen as the prehistory of pragmatics. The linguists, many of them, especially Larry Hahn, has traced some of the central concerns of pragmatics, of contemporary pragmatics, back to various times in the past. One of his books in this regard has been A Natural History of Negation, and his recent article, Presupposition and Implicature. And he talks about the history of these concerns and various aspects of these concerns which comes to us from various times of the history, of human history. According to Hahn, the distinction between what is said and what is meant but not said goes back to the 4th century. It's not only a recent one. And to the popular philosophers of those times, Servius and Donatus, whose description of understatement is very relevant here, which conveys us the idea similar to the difference between what is said and what is meant. And in understatement is a kind of speech act we see in which we say less but mean more. So we all know this is one of the important rhetorical strategy also. So the description of understatement as we find in 4th century can be seen as one of the foundation stones of contemporary pragmatics. Similarly, Hahn also has shown us that in the 19th century, the philosophers like J.S. Mill and Augustus D. Morgan, they also contributed to the development of contemporary pragmatics. They talked about the strict logical sense of words some and all. When we say some, we do not mean all. And Mill has an elaborated discussion on this while developing the logical meanings of his ideas. And some of his suggestions are purely Gricean in nature, as we find it in today's Gricean pragmatics. If I say, I saw some of your children, for example, I mean that I saw only some of your children and not all. If I had seen all of them, I would have probably said, I have seen all of your children, or I saw your children. So, in this regard, we can assume that that when we say some, that does not mean all. Or in this logical connection, we can develop our arguments on a scale or on various levels. Even though this cannot be presumed unless it is supposed that I must have known whether the children I saw were all or not. So in order to make some assumption, one of the logical backgrounds of pragmatics is that we must be sure that what we have seen in form of children were all of the children or some of the children. So it is assumed that they were not all of them. There is also a prehistory of the concept of a presupposition, which comes down to us before Strawson from Gottlob Frege. Through the use of explaining the use of singular in order to refer to a certain individual, he has explained to us various aspects of presupposition, and which probably was also further developed by Christopher Van Stigwart, and which can be seen as an important hallmark in the development of the contemporary concept of presupposition.